November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. A motorcade carrying President John F. Kennedy drives through the streets. But today is not like any other day. Today, JFK's motorcade is bulletproof, and his Secret Service detail is far more vigilant. How would American history have been different had the most prominent member of the so-called best and brightest survived beyond November 1963? Today, we are looking at how the United States might have been different had JFK lived out the remainder of his 2 terms. As they drive, the president jokes with his wife Jackie about the large crowds gathered along the street. While the Bay of Pigs invasion was a total disaster, Kennedy learned from his mistakes, and would likely have avoided many of the missteps that defined American foreign policy in the early Cold War. While he escalated American involvement in the conflict, he also planned to withdraw those very same troops once the South Vietnamese could take over. Whether or not this policy would have succeeded is up for debate, but it's possible that a longer, more drawn-out conflict could have been avoided. Furthermore, with his charisma and good looks, JFK might have been able to forge a genuine with the Soviet Union, ending the Cold War on a positive note rather than the contentious relationship that eventually defined it. With so many conflicting accounts of what happened that day in Dallas, it's hard to say what really went down. But as we remember him today, it's worth asking what could have been. And as always, thanks for watching. What if the Cold War ended not with a whimper but with a flourish? What if civil rights were secured not through protest but through presidential decree? And what if the American economy continued its post-war boom through the 70s and 80s? The answers to these questions and more are contained within our present, where the assassination of JFK plunged the United States into an era of turmoil and strife from which it has never fully emerged. But it's possible that had JFK lived, these conspiracies would have died off quickly as the truth came out. But no one knew it at the time, and even threatening to deploy federal troops to the South in order to ensure equal access to public facilities. Had he lived longer, it's possible that the turbulent racial politics of the 60s and 70s could have been avoided entirely. But while he was willing to spend vast sums of money on defense, he would have done so in a far more efficient manner. Kennedy understood the importance of the space race and would likely have made significant investments in NASA, possibly even beating the Soviets to the moon had he lived longer. But Kennedy's health was already in serious decline due to a combination of congenital heart disease and the numerous health issues brought on by his almost certainly steroid-fueled obsession with physical fitness. Nonetheless, JFK was inaugurated at the height of his powers and proceeded to institute a number of reforms that would change the face of America forever. Little does he know this will be one of the last times he will ever make light of such an occasion. He was particularly interested in improving the lot of Appalachia, and would likely have made significant investments in infrastructure and industry there. Furthermore, his focus on science and technology might have led to a very different future for the United States, possibly even ushering in the technological singularity had things gone well, and devalued the dollar in relation to the British pound, causing a huge influx of investment into the U.S. economy. It was a risky move. It's ultimately successful and helped usher in an economic boom that would last for decades. As their car turns toward the Texas Schoolbook Depository, a man leans out a window with a rifle at the ready. But today, that man is far less skilled or far luckier because today, John F. Kennedy lives. Hello, everyone. Welcome to What If, where we do just that, ask what if. And today, we ask, what if JFK wasn't assassinated? After winning the controversial 1960 election against Richard Nixon, JFK ushered in an era of youthful vigor and vigorish into the White House. But perhaps his most important legacy was monetary reform. In order to combat the deflationary spiral that the U.S. economy had fallen into, Kennedy broke with the International Monetary Order, while JFK was certainly progressive on many issues. He was also a staunch anti-communist and would have likely taken a harder line against the Soviet Union. Back at home, Kennedy was progressive for his time, supporting the burgeoning civil rights movement on the issue of Vietnam. However, Kennedy's legacy is much more muddied. This is a history channel after all. So it should come as no surprise that JFK's approach to the Cold War would have been primarily through the military. With a second term, Kennedy planned to tackle issues such as poverty and inequality. Of course, no discussion of Kennedy would be complete without addressing the elephant in the room: the numerous conspiracy theories surrounding his death. Now, obviously none of this is possible as JFK was tragically assassinated in November 1963. So what do you think? How would the world be different today if JFK hadn't been killed? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.